Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Mala ji mala.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Givaridhari. Gopijana Vallabha Givaridhari. Yasoda Nandana Pratijana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Givaridhari. Yasoda Nandana Pratijana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class. Where are we? Today we are reading about the appearance of Lord Virahadev. Text 8, chapter 13 of the third canto of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Tadvidehi namastubhyam karma svidyatma shaktishu yat kritveha yaso vishvang amutracha bhavedgati tadvidehi namastubhyam karma svidyata shaktishu yat kritveha yaso vishvang amutracha bhavedgati. Anyone else? Okay. Tat that. Videhi. Give direction. Nama. My obeisances. Tubhyam. Unto you. Karmashu. In duties. Idya. O worshipful one. Atma Shakti Shu. Within our working capacity. Yat. Which. Kritva. Doing. Iha. In this world. Yasha. Fame. Vishvak. Everywhere. Amutra. In the next world. Cha. And. Bhavet. It should be. Gati. Progress. Translation. O worshipful one, please give us your direction for the execution of duty within our working capacity, so that we can follow it for fame in this life and progress in the next. Please repeat. O worshipable one, please give us your direction for the execution of duty within our working capacity, so that we can follow it for fame in this life and progress in the next. Purport. Brahma is the direct recipient of Vedic knowledge from the personality of Godhead, and anyone discharging his entrusted duties in disciplic succession from Brahma is sure to gain fame in this life and salvation in the next. The disciplic succession from Brahma is called the Brahma Sampradaya, and it descends as follows. Brahma, Narada, Vyas, Madhava, Muni, Purnapragna, Padnabha, Nirahari, Madhava, Akshobhya, Jayatirtha, Gyanasindhu, Dayanidhi, Vidyanidhi, Rajendra, Jayadharma, Purushottama, Brahman Tirtha, Vyasatirtha, Lakshmipati, Madhavendra-puri, Ishwarapuri, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarup Damodar and Sri Rupa Goswami and others, meaning the other 6 Goswamis, Sri Raghunath Das Goswami, Krishnadas Das Goswami, Narottam Das Thakur, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Jagannath Das Babaji, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, Śrīmad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. This line of disciplic succession from Brahma is spiritual, whereas the genealogical succession from Manu is material. But both are on the progressive march toward the same goal of Krishna consciousness. So there you have it, folks. The disciplic succession going all the way back to Krishna. We are very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada has connected us to this disciplic succession and has laid the teachings or the ability for devotees to become, by following his instructions, they can become pure devotees and continue the disciplic succession by acting in their own right as another link to the original. I'm not really qualified to give a class to so many pure devotees. I'm a reservoir of sinful, contaminated activities, but I am blessed by the link of the succession that runs this temple to come up and try to tell what I can remember about the last person mentioned in this succession. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. We know that Srila Prabhupada was just christened as the Jagat Guru into Kumbh Mela. Has everybody heard the news that Srila Prabhupada has been recognized by the entire Vaishnava community as well as everybody else at the Kumbh Mela as being a Vishva Guru, the Jagat Guru, the spiritual master of the universe. And we are so very, very fortunate to have a service connection to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. I was, first time I saw Srila Prabhupada was a poster in Portland, Oregon in 1974. Srila Prabhupada had come 2 years earlier to Oregon and did a program, initiated some devotees like Kripanidhi Prabhu, and the devotees, they advertised Srila Prabhupada's coming to Oregon with posters that they glued to telephone poles. And they used a lot of glue. So these posters were still there 2 years later. You could see them, they were put on and so that they wouldn't come off. So I was walking down the street and I looked at one of them and I thought, I saw Srila Prabhupada, the picture, and I thought, well, what a powerful looking person. And then by the influence of George Harrison from the Beatles, I became interested in Krishna consciousness until I found a devotee who gave me a little card that invited me to the Hare Krishna temple in Portland, Oregon at 2805 Southeast Hawthorne Street. I'd been raised as a Christian, and I'd been to church that morning. I was going to church every Sunday, and there was a pastor that was working with the young people. I was 16 years old at the time, and the pastor said, "What kind of musical instrument do you think that God plays?" So everybody was guessing big things, like big bass drums, grand pianos, maybe a harp, because they play harps in heaven. When it came my turn, I immediately thought, God plays a flute. And then there was two more kids so there's three people for the flute. Flute. So I followed the instructions on the little card that said, chant Hare Krishna and your life will be sublime. And it had the Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. I'd never heard that word before, sublime. So I looked it up in the dictionary. It said sublime means that which is in order, that's that which is peaceful, and that which is happy. So I made it to the temple. Mataji told me where to put my shoes, and I looked there was a stack of shoes, like a bookshelf all the way. I'd never seen so many shoes outside of a shoe store. And I came up the stairs, and there was a devotee named Adani Swabhava, and he was painting a life-size picture of Radha and Krishna from the front of the Krishna book. Big picture, and he'd been painting it for months. He's still working on it. And he said, "This is God." So I looked up, and there is Muralidhar Krishna. And I said, I always knew that God played a flute. So then the program started. Dinabandhu Prabhu, yes, the Dinabandhu in Vrindavan, he gave a lecture about how the body changes, but the person stays the same. We look in the mirror when we're a little person and we say, "This is me." Now, if you look in the mirror right now, you can say, "This is me." And you'll have another body later that'll be completely different, everything, all the cells will change, it will look different, but you'll still say, this is me. So that was a good explanation of how the body changes, but the person stays the same. My introduction to Bhagavad Gita, Srila Prabhupada's gift. And then we had the artik and the kirtan, and I started chanting and dancing a little bit, and there was a devotee offering artik, and he did the peacock fan, and then he fanned the audience. You know, first you fan the deities, then you fan everybody else, and then he put the peacock fan away. I thought, why did he stop? That was nice. You know, it was a hot day. And then we went on to the prasadam. I'd been a vegetarian for a while, and I'd never had anything like this, though. The prasadam was, of course, everything was cooked in ghee back in those days. There was no oil in the kitchen. And the preparations just kept on coming out. There was sabjis, there was malpurs, there was sweet rice, there was puris, there was pakoras, there was chutney, 2 kinds of chutney. There was different kinds of rice, yellow rice, white rice. I was just, after I took that Sunday feast, I said, I'm going to eat like this for the rest of my life. So basically, I'd already joined, and then they brought me into the book room, or the gift shop, and sold me a stack of books. So I met Srila Prabhupada in his books. I took the books home, opened up I got a Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Gita, Krishna book, Shri and Perfection of Yoga. So first I opened up the Bhagavad Gita and tried to read it. It said Dhritarashtra Vacha, and that didn't make any sense. I couldn't see, there was no vowels in the word Dhritarashtra. So then I went to the Krishna book, and it had a preface by George Harrison. That was easy to understand. And then it had these pictures of a little blue boy killing monsters. So that was interesting. Then I tried, what's in this book? The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Om Pranamada Pranamadam Pranasha Pranamadaya. And that the complete whole, God is complete, a complete whole, and so many units emanate from God, but he still remains complete. So I thought, that's God, 16 years of Christianity, and I never understood God as easy as I did from one page of Srila Prabhupada's books. So then I got permission from my parents. Dinabandhu got permission from my parents I could move into the temple. So I came and spent the night at the temple and started going to the morning programs every day. And I had to go to high school during the daytime and then come back to the temple at night. So one day, I was sweeping the basement in the temple, and I saw a stack of Back to Godheads, and I looked at some of them, and there was an advertisement for the Radha Damodar Traveling Sankirtan Party. So I saw Tamal Krishna Goswami and Vishnu John Swami next to Shri Radha Damodar, and I really wanted to do that. So I sold some things and got a ticket and went to Florida. And when I got to Florida, Gainesville, Florida, got to the temple, and Vishnu John Swami and his band were spread across the lawn in the front of the temple singing his bhajans. Have everybody here heard Vishnu John Swami bhajans? I think we all have at one time or another. Prabhupada said he was a Gandharva, sang very beautifully. And then Tamal Krishna Goswami let me onto the bus, and I began a life of book distribution from 10 in the morning until 6 or 7 o'clock at night, depending on the summer. And we worked very hard and sent a lot of money to build Mayapur. And the Radha Damodar party was quite ecstatic. There was these festivals with Vishnu John Swami, and there was book distribution, and Jayananda came on board, and he was like a bhakta leader, and we distributed a lot of prasadam. Prasadam was ecstatic. And one day it was announced that we were going to see Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was coming to Atlanta, Georgia, and we drove all night on the bus, and we got to the temple in the morning just in time for Mangal Arti. So we cleaned up, went to Mangal Arti, and then Srila Prabhupada went on his morning walk. And right in time for the greeting of the deities, Srila Prabhupada came back, and I got to see Srila Prabhupada for the first time. When he came into the front door of the Atlanta temple, New Panahati Dham, he lit up the whole place. It was like the sun globe had somehow rolled inside. You know, the sun's not very big from our perspective, and it just seemed like the sun globe had just come to earth and rolled in the front door. Srila Prabhupada was so bright and effulgent. And then as he was going by, the first thing I noticed was how fast he was. Because Srila Prabhupada was, close to 80 years old, and we all know that when we get old, we get a little slow. In fact, when we get real old, we get real slow until we quit moving altogether. But Prabhupada had some kind of benediction. He had a youthful existence, and he was really moving, and his servants, they were all in their young men, 20s. They couldn't keep up with him. So Srila Prabhupada, and another thing I noticed was that he wasn't quite touching the ground, which was an interesting phenomenon. I was watching, it seemed like he was like walking on water. You know how they say Jesus walked on water? Well, Prabhupada, wherever he went, he was just not exactly about floating, but he was just skimming across. He didn't leave footprints in the snow, for instance. You probably don't have a lot of snow in Tirupati, but Prabhupada, if you've ever been in snow, Prabhupada walked on snow and he didn't leave any footprints. He walked on the grass. The same thing, no footprints. So Srila Prabhupada had, that amazing mystic power. And then we went into the temple room, and Srila Prabhupada was there for the greeting of the deities. The curtains opened, and Govinda prayers began. And Srila Prabhupada paid his obeisances. So I paid my obeisances and looked there, and then suddenly Srila Prabhupada's two lotus feet were just right there in front of me. So without hesitation, I just grabbed him. He had on these maroon socks, and I held on to Prabhupada's lotus feet until he started getting up. And then Srila Prabhupada, he sat down, gave Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam class about the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. The day before, Prabhupada had given a similar class. When he talked about Lord Chaitanya and the mercy and how Krishna consciousness is spreading all over the world, every town and village. This is February 1975. And Srila Prabhupada, he went into samadhi. He couldn't talk anymore, and tears poured from his eyes. And devotees that were close to him actually got wet from Srila Prabhupada's tears. And then Tamal Krishna after the morning program, Tamal Krishna Goswami introduced each one of us to Srila Prabhupada. So we all lined up. There was a Radha Damodar party was about 25, 30 men at that time. And we lined up and we all had a flower. When it was my turn, I put the flower on Prabhupada's desk, paid my obeisances. I got up, and then Prabhupada was looking at me, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, "This is Bhakta Michael. He joined our party at a young age," because I was 16, which was a few years younger than most of the other devotees. And Prabhupada looked up at me and smiled and said, "Ah, very good." So we sat down, and then Srila Prabhupada, he thanked us for distributing his books. So I took that as a lifelong instruction that to keep on distributing his books. And he said that if you can stay brahmachari, you'll save yourself a lot of trouble. He didn't really say that we had to stay brahmachari. He just said that if you can, you'll save yourself trouble. And my Guru Maharaj, he went from brahmachari to sannyas. And then he said that you have a good leader with Tamal Krishna Goswami. You just follow him and I'll be pleased. So that was a memorable moment. And Srila Prabhupada, later on, he gave an explanation, or what did he do? He gave a special program where he had us all learn the song Patite Pavana, what's Parama Karuna. Using the technology of the time, Srila Prabhupada had Parama Karuna Pahunduijana. That song was Xeroxed, and we all had a copy. And Srila Prabhupada was playing the Mridanga. First he had another devotee was trying to play the Mridanga, but it was a 1-2 beat. You know, Prabhupada had always, so far we'd always done 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But this time it was 1, 2, 1, 2. Parama Karuna Pahunduijana. So the devotee playing the Mridanga couldn't get it right. So Srila Prabhupada said, I will play Mridanga. So when Prabhupada got the Mridanga, then he played. It was just amazing watching Prabhupada play Mridanga. And then there was a Sunday feast lecture. And there was I asked Srila Prabhupada asked if there was any questions. I asked how I could perfect my devotional service. He said, just chant Hare Krishna and everything else will come. It's very simple. So that was a lifelong instruction. And then the next day was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's appearance day. And Srila Prabhupada offered Artik to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Another amazing sight. And Prabhupada also, many things happened that weekend. Prabhupada formed the Bhaktivedanta Institute, the Bhaktivedanta Library Party, and enlivened the Atlanta devotees, and gave it the name New Panahati Dham. So Jayapataka Swami followed up on that, and he's gone there to celebrate the Panahati festival of Shantipur in New Panahati Dham. So this was quite a boost to the Radha Damodar party. We went back out and expanded for the next 6 months. The buses went from 3 buses to 5 buses, from 30 men to 140 men. So by July 1975, Tamal Krishna Goswami was running this like an army of Sankirtan devotees. And he had a map of the country, and he had these buses going, and there was 20 vans, 5 buses, 140 men. Devotees were distributing books inside airports, in shopping malls, fairs, and at the same time putting on the festivals at universities with Vishnu John Swami or one of the bus leaders. They all could sing the bhajans. At the one university, I remember Vishnu John Swami brought so many people that were listening to his kirtan, and then there was prasadam, and then Tamal Krishna Maharaj would go out and distribute back to Godhead magazines and convince people to come and join the bus. He'd say, just try it out. He knew that if somebody tried Krishna consciousness, then they would take to Krishna consciousness. So then we got to Chicago, and Srila Prabhupada initiated the whole party. and everybody that wasn't initiated. So in one day, Srila Prabhupada initiated 80 brahmacharis. And when it came my turn, he looked down at me and he said, "Your name is Misra Bagavan Das. Just chant Hare Krishna." And handed me the beads. Wonderful moment. And then he installed 4 sets of Gaurnitai deities. The Radha Damodar bus had Radha Damodar, and now Prabhupada put Gaurnitai inside the other 4 buses. And Srila Prabhupada had a press conference, and Srila Prabhupada said many things about Krishna consciousness. But one thing he said that really caught the attention of the reporters was that women have less brain substance than men. And he told about the professor that was Scottish Church's professor that said women's brains are 64 ounce or 32 ounce, men's brains are 64 ounce. So if a Mataji's hearing this, she may be thinking, well, that doesn't make any sense to me. I'm a genius. I have a PhD in psychology. But Prabhupada, he kept on stressing that intelligence is just a material thing. Somebody may have more of it or less, but it's not a qualification for going back to Godhead. A year later, Prabhupada's and then the newspaper articles were all just about that subject. So a year later, Prabhupada was in New York, because we went on with the Radha Damodar party after Chicago and had a huge Christmas marathon, and then we went to India with Prabhupada, and then we saw Prabhupada in New York for the Rath Yatra festival. And Srila Prabhupada was giving class, and he said, in Chicago, it caused a great agitation when I said that women have less brain substance than men. But actually, this is a fact. But one should not take it as that intelligence has anything to do with going back to Godhead. Everybody is qualified. And I was thinking about how to understand that. I was just thinking that intelligence is just something that men have maybe more of because they're endowed with that, because they have to give protection to the women. Just like a man's intelligence, he may see that he may have put together how these lights are functioning, built this building, designed it. And women can also do anything a man can do by following instructions. But women are more powerful than men, Prabhupada also said. After all, it starts off with women begin with Srimati Radharani, and she expands as the goddesses of fortune, the damsels of Raja, and the queens of Dwarka. And the goddess of fortune expands as Durga Devi, and Durga Devi, Mahamaya, she expands as all the women of the world. When women become devotees, they quit being Maya Devis and they become Devi Dasis. They become Lakshmis, goddesses of fortune, by becoming the servant of Krishna again, lost. And men start off, as mentioned in this verse, Lord Brahma, first Krishna, from Krishna comes Lord Narayan, from Lord Narayan comes Lord Brahma. And Lord Brahma is really quite smart. He's a very intelligent person. He's got 4 heads. He creates the whole universe. And Durga Devi, or Parvati, she's the power that controls the whole material universe. I was thinking, I work in Dallas, and in Dallas, Texas, I take my car to a place that fixes it. And this auto shop has about 10 men that are really intelligent and know how to fix cars. and they're all run by one woman, the manager. And the lady who runs the auto shop, she doesn't have to know how to fix cars. She knows how to manage. It's a natural propensity to be a controller of these men that fix the cars. So Srila Prabhupada went on in New York to say how women are actually very qualified to go back to Godhead, as we see with the deities. Krishna, when we saw last night with the Sham dance, does Krishna want to have the Rasa dance with a team of rocket scientists? Or would he rather be with the gopis? The gopis they're the highest devotees of Krishna. And they wander to the forest and they say, where is Krishna? Then they talk to the plants, they talk to the trees. Have you seen Krishna? So a scientist may say, well, that's not very intelligent to talking to plants. Plants can't reply. So the love for the love that Krishna has for the gopis, and the love that gopis have for Krishna, that's the highest love. When Krishna sent the cowherd boys out to get prasadam, the Brahmins were very intelligent, and they could ascertain the scriptures, but they couldn't figure out that they should give some food for the cowherd boys and Krishna. But the wives they had love for Krishna, and they pleased Krishna by giving the food to Krishna's devotees. So, as I said, we were in Chicago, and then we went on to a trip to India. One day, Tamal Krishna Maharaj said that we're all going to Mayapur and Vrindavan for Gaur Purnima. This is March 1976. So we loaded up on an airplane in New York, and we took over the whole airplane. That was a pretty amazing thing. It was the whole 747, completely filled with devotees, Air India. So even the pilots and the stewardesses were also devotees. They were Gujaratis. So we had the full program on the airplane, with artik, the ghee lamps going down the aisles, kirtan being led by Vishwajana Swami over the speaker, the public address system. Everybody was dancing. The plane was bouncing. It was astounding, really. And we got to Mayapur. As soon as we got settled in Mayapur, then Tamal Krishna Maharaj immediately sent all his Radha Damodar men out to the main gate to do book distribution. Everybody else was going on parikram, and they had, the cameras on, and we were in a holiday mood, but for us, we've been doing book distribution 6 days a week for 2 years, and we get to Mayapur, and it's time for more book distribution. And we had a stack of these little Gitar Gans and Ek Rupiah. 1 rupee then was like 10 rupees now, at least. So then Vishnu John Swami disappeared, and then Tamal Krishna Goswami got sent to China, and that was a wonderful moment. Prabhupada, half the Radha Damodar men were devotees like myself that had given up our temples to be on the bus. So the temple presidents, they didn't like that, so they all got together and they approached Prabhupada and said, we can't take this anymore. Tamal Krishna Maharaj keeps on attracting all of our brahmacharis, and they don't want to be in the temple anymore. And they just want to travel with him. So Prabhupada says to Goswami, so what are we going to do with you? And Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, I don't know, Prabhupada. Maybe I should just go to China. And Prabhupada said, yes. And then Goswami said, no, I just joking. And Prabhupada said, Krishna has spoken to you. And he said, no, I can't. Prabhupada, I have, this Radha Damodar party. I'm sending $40,000 a month to build this temple, including this lotus building that we're in right now. I have to keep that going. And Prabhupada said, no, you are going to China, and others can take care of the party. And then Guru Kripa said, well, Prabhupada, I'll go to China. And Prabhupada said, no, he must go. And then the morning walk began. So Prabhupada went up on the roof of the Lotus building, and I followed along. I wasn't really supposed to be on the morning walk, but I put a shutter over my head and kind of squeezed in there. So we got on the roof of the Lotus building, and Prabhupada was so happy, and he had his cane and his bead bag, and he turned around and he was walking backwards facing the GBC and sannyasis that were on the morning walk. And he held his arms out and he said, you'll all be happy to know, Tamal is going to China. And it seemed like Prabhupada was the only person happy about it. Everybody thought he was being banished, But we, as we know, we can ask Maharaj here how it turned out. Tamal Krishna Maharaj he took that as his life mission. And now we have thousands of devotees in China. And then I went on another morning walk where Srila Prabhupada, he stopped. He liked to quotes about his books from university professors. And then we went to Vrindavan, and Srila Prabhupada gave class every single day, and morning walks and darshans, so much mercy, so much of his association. Then we got back to New York, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj was preparing to go to China. It was decided that it wasn't right time, and then he became Prabhupada's personal servant, right-hand man, till Prabhupada left his body. And Srila Prabhupada, he gave a darshan that I got to go to. It was Urmila was there, and her father, and she was holding a baby. Urmila, she's a school teacher, she's a very senior Vaishnavi. And Srila Prabhupada said, told her father that this is real love. She doesn't want anything back. She's just giving love to the baby without expecting anything in return. And her father said, well, I can't really relate to loving God, but I like to serve humanity. And Prabhupada said, if you want to serve humanity, first you have to love God. If you love God, then you can love everybody else. He used the example of a pond. If you have a pond of water, you can put rocks in the middle, and they expand evenly. But if there's different interest, then there's conflict. So by loving God, the love expands from Krishna more out until again it comes to the lotus feet of God. And I liked how he said the lotus feet of God. He always says the lotus feet of Krishna, but in this case he was talking to a man who was a Christian, and he explained it as the lotus feet of God. Then the next day was Rath Yatra festival. Rath Yatra, Jayananda built the carts. Our President Donald Trump had donated some land for the Rath Yatra carts to be built. Devotional service that he performed at someday when he's talking to Yamaraj, that'll come up in his favor. So the Rath Yatra carts were being built, and they used this hydraulic flagpole to bring the dome up and down. But the night, at 10 o'clock at night, the day before the Rath Yatra, the flagpole went up and immediately just snapped in half and fell over. Jayananda looked up there, and right before it snapped, he said, "It's going to bust." And as soon as he said the word bust, boom, and the whole thing came down, and we were just speechless. Everybody just stood there for about 2 minutes with dead silence. And then Jayananda said, "Well, let's get to work." And he put together a system, a manual system like they use in Jagannath Puri, where you put beams of wood on top of one another, and you put in another stick of wood to keep one from falling, and somehow the next day the Rath Yatra carts were ready to go, and they came down Fifth Avenue, and Srila Prabhupada was driven up, and he got on Subhadra's cart, and it was a great victory parade. This was 1976, and 1966, 10 years before that, we've seen pictures of Srila Prabhupada. He's all alone in New York. No temples, no devotees. Now here it's 10 years later, and Srila Prabhupada has fulfilled the mission of his spiritual master. There's 108 temples, and Prabhupada's coming down Fifth Avenue, the most important city in the world, the most important street in New York, and Srila Prabhupada's got the 3 carts, all the Radha Damodar buses, and a flatbed, and 2,000 devotees. And it was such a great honor, that Srila Prabhupada had come down, had accomplished everything, and now here he was going to Washington Square Park, which happened to be where the first Harinam was. Thompson Square Park is pretty famous that they had the first Harinams, because that's where the picture was taken, the movie of Prabhupada chanting under the tree in Thompson Square Park. But actually, the first Harinam outside of the temple in New York in 1966 was in Washington Square Park. And how Prabhupada had come back to Washington Square Park after 10 years of success in spreading Krishna consciousness throughout the world. And when it was time, Prabhupada gave the lecture. He didn't really give a lecture in the sense that he just told the story of Lord Jagannath, of King Indradumna and the carver, and how Indradumna wanted a deity like Nilamadeva, and he got these man to carve the deity, and the door opened, and then he stopped carving, and then you had Lord Jagannath. So Prabhupada didn't talk about how we're not the body or any, philosophical points. There's the top of, or the goal of philosophy of Krishna Lila and the advent of Lord Jagannath. And then there was a Christian extremist that interrupted Srila Prabhupada, and he had a sign that said, "Turn or burn." And he was waving a Bible, and he started yelling at Prabhupada, "You have to accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior." And Prabhupada stopped for a moment, and there was this one African devotee that I saw him. He started kind of like a train, and he was chug, 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 and then he started going really fast. And the man was standing on the wall of the fountain in the park, and this devotee went boom and knocked the man. He went flying through the air and landed in the water. And Prabhupada just stopped for a moment and said, "There's a problem?" And Harisari said, "No problem, Prabhupada." So Prabhupada went on to finish the story. And I read in Harisari's Transcendental Diary that Srila Prabhupada was really entertained by this incident. He said, "Did you see how that black devotee, how he knocked the man into the water?" Later on, Prabhupada talked about it in his room. And Then Srila Prabhupada went to Europe, and that was the last time that he was in the United States of America. So we very much appreciate the opportunity to have Srila Prabhupada's association for those 3 years, 74, 75, 76. And Srila Prabhupada, he left his mark in America. He ended it there in Washington Square Park, his last public appearance. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Okay, I promised Marichi that I would stop sharply at 9 o'clock. It is 0900 hours and 1000 hours. The buses will be leaving and we'll be on our way. I can speak for all of us, this spiritual safari group, that we're extremely pleased and thankful for all of your wonderful hospitality and the association of all the devotees of ISKCON Tirupati. ISKCON Tirupati Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.